What's up? Mishpachah, and then right, family and friends, brothers and sisters, Akim and Akatim. All right, aunties and uncles, grandmas and grandpas, mothers and fathers. Welcome back to the road trip. That's right, Kingdom Builders, road trippers. Welcome back. All right, how you doing? You doing all right? Getting through this week, all right? Hopefully with strength and endurance. The week's not always going to be easy. You're going to run into some challenges here and there. It's all spiritual warfare, just know that. And you can do all things through Mashiach who strengthens you. Just remember that. Also, Shalom and Shalom. Peace and blessings to you and your homes, your dwelling places. And all praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. Abba Yahweh. Bahashem Yahweh Shai. That's right. Glory to Yahweh Shai. Honors to the Ruach and my love and my respect to you. That's right. Welcome back. We're back here in the works of Flavius Josephus, and specifically the Jewish Antiquities, or Antiquities of the Yahudim. And we're going to be finishing up Book 1. All right. Book 1 has 22 chapters in it. And we're going to be starting on Chapter 20 as we finished up Chapter 19 on the last read. So, and there will be some notes. All right. So we're going to read Chapter 20. There is only one note on that one. Chapter 21, where there will be a few notes, a couple notes, and then we'll finish up real short little chapter 22, and then we'll finish up by reading the patriarchs in history, little segment right there, little section, and then we'll start on the next read on Book 2 of the Jewish Antiquities. All right. So this one right here is going to be chapter 20, starting off concerning the meeting of Yaakov, or Jacob, and Esau. All right, cool. So it's really, really good to have you with me right now, families and friends. Mishpachah. And if you have these scrolls available to you, I would encourage you to pull them out and read along with me. Read with your Ak, all right? And if not, sit back and I'm going to read with the best accuracy I possibly can, which is going to be spotty at best, and we'll see how we get through this. All praises to the Most High. All praises to Yahweh. That's right. Let him guide my tongue with the Ruach. So, no further ado, ladies and gentlemen, chapter 20. Let's begin. Let's go. Chapter 20, and it reads, Section 1. Now, as Yaakov was proceeding on his journey to the land of Canaan, angels appeared to him and suggested to him good hope of his future condition, and that place he named the camp of Yahweh. And being desirous of knowing what his brother's intentions were to him, he sent messengers to give him an exact account of everything, as being afraid on account of the enemies between them. He charged those that were sent to say to Esau that Jacob, Yaakov, had thought it wrong to live together with him, while he was in anger against him, and so had gone out of the country, and that he now, thinking the length of time of his absence must have made up the differences, was returning, that he brought with him his wives and his children, with the possessions he had gotten, and delivered himself with what was most dear to him into his hands, and should think it his greatest happiness to partake together with his brother of what Yahweh had bestowed upon him. So these messengers told him the message, upon which Esau was very glad, and met with his brother with 400 men. And Jacob Yaakov, when he heard that he was coming to meet him with such a number of men, was greatly afraid. However, he committed his hope of deliverance to Yahweh, and considered how, in his present circumstances, he might preserve himself and those that were with him, and overcome his enemies if they attacked him injuriously. Right? He therefore distributed his company into parts. Some he sent before the rest, and others he ordered to come close behind, that so, if the first were overpowered when his brother attacked them, they might have those that followed as a refuge to fly unto. And when he had put his company in this order, he sent some of them to carry presents to his brother. The presents were made up of cattle in great number, of 4-footed beasts of many kinds, such as would be very acceptable to those that received them, on account of their rarity. Those who were sent went at certain intervals of space apart, that by following thick one after another, they might appear to be more numerous, that Esau might be appeased on account of these presents, if he were still in a passion, right? Like ready to kill him, right? Instructions were also given to those that were sent to seek gently to him. That's the end of section 1. All right, let's continue. Section 2. When Jacob, Yaakov, had made these appointments all the day, and night came on, he moved on with his company. And as they were gone over a certain river called Jabbok, Yaakov was left behind, and meeting with an angel, he wrestled with him, the angel beginning the struggle. But he prevailed over the angel, who used a voice and spoke to him in words, exhorting him to be pleased with what had happened to him, and not to suppose that his victory was a small one, but that he had overcome a divine angel, and to esteem the victory of a sign of great blessings that should come to him, and that his offspring should never fail, and that no man should be too hard for his power. He also commanded him to be called Israel, or Yasharal, which in the Hebrew tongue signifies one that struggled with the divine angel. These promises were made at the prayer of Yaakov, for when he perceived him to be the angel of Yahweh, he desired he would signify to him what should befall him hereafter. And when the angel had said what it was before related, he disappeared. But Yaakov was pleased with these things, and named the place Peniel, which signifies the face of Yahweh. Now, when he felt pain by the struggling upon his broad sinew, he abstained from eating that sinew himself afterward. For his sake, it is still not eaten by us. That's the end of section 2. Section 3 to finish up chapter 20, and it reads: When Yaakov understood that his brother was near, he ordered his wives to go before, each by herself, with the handmaids, that they might see the actions of the men as they were fighting. If Esau were so disposed, he then went up to his brother Esau and bowed down to him, who had no evil design upon him, but saluted him and asked him about the company of the children and of the women, and desired, when he had understood all he wanted to know about them, that he would go along with him to their father. But Yaakov, pretending that the cattle were weary, Esau returned to Seir, for there was his place of habitation, he having named that place Roughness, from his own hairy roughness. That's the end of section 3. All right, and we're going to start reading these notes. All right, there's only one note. We're going to read the note. All right. All right, the note, it's real short. It reads, perhaps this may be the proper meaning of the word Yasharel, or Israel, by the present and the old Jerusalem analogy of the Hebrew tongue. In the meantime, it is certain that the Hellenists of the first century in Mizraim and elsewhere interpreted Yasharel to be a man-seeing God, or Yahweh, as is evident from the argument foreseated or foresighted. Salake. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump into chapter 21 concerning the violation of Dinah's chastity, right? The daughter, right? Their daughter, their sister, right? So, yeah. Dinah or Dinah, whatever you feel comfortable with. For this purpose, I'm going to say Dinah, okay? I'm going to say Dinah. All right. We're going to say Dinah. I'm cool with both, for real. I mean, Dinah? All right, Dinah? Okay. Let's check it out. Chapter 21, section 1, and it reads, But Yaakov came to the place until this day called Tents, Succoth, or Succoth. From thus he went to Shechem, which is a city of the Canaanites. Now as the Shechemites were keeping a festival, Dinah, who was the only daughter of Yaakov, went into the city to see the finery of the women of that country. But when Shechem, the son of Hamor the king, saw her, he defiled her by violence, and being greatly in love with her, desired of his father that he would procure the damsel to him for a wife. To which desire he agreed, and came to Yaakov, asking him to give leave that his son Shechem might, according to law, marry Dinah. But Yaakov, not knowing how to deny the desire of one of such great dignity, and yet not thinking it lawful to marry his daughter to a stranger, asking him to give him time to have consolation about what he wanted to do. So the king went away in hopes that Yaakov would grant him this marriage. But Yaakov informed his sons of the defilement of their sister, and of the address of Hamor, and wanted them to give their advice what they should do. Upon this, the greatest part said nothing, not knowing what advice to give. But Simeon and Levi, the brothers of the damsel by the same mother, agreed between themselves upon the following action. It being now the time of a festival, when the Shechemites were employed in ease and feasting, they fell upon the watchmen when they were asleep, and coming into the city killed all the males, as also the king and his son with them, but spared the women. And when they had done this without their father's consent, they brought away their sister. That's the end of section 1. Okay, cool. Section 2 reads, Now while Yaakov was astonished at the violence of this act, and was severely blaming his sons for it, Yahweh stood by him, and directed him to be of good courage, but to purify his tents, and to offer those sacrifices which he had vowed to offer when he went first into Mesopotamia, and saw his vision. As he was therefore purifying his followers, he lighted upon the gods of Laban, for he did not before know they were stolen by Rachel. And he hid them in the earth, under the oak in Shechem. And departing from there, he offered sacrifice to Bethel, the place where he saw his dream, when he went first into Mesopotamia. That's the end of section 2. All right. And I'm going to show you a picture here after this next section. Okay, yeah, let's read this next one. All right, section 3 reads, And when he was gone from there, he was come near to Ephrath. He there buried Rachel, who died in childbed, and was the only one of Jacob, Yaakov's family, that had not the honor of burial in Hebron. And when he had mourned for her a great while, he called the son that was born of her Benjamin, because of the sorrow the mother had with him. These are all the children of Yaakov, 12 males and 1 female. Of them 8 were legitimate, right? 6 of Leah and 2 of Rachel, and 4 were of the handmaids, 2 of each, all whose names have been set down already. And that's the end of section 3. That's the end of chapter 21. All right, and we're going to read the notes. But first, before we read the notes, we're going to take, well, let's just do it like this. All right, hold on. Let's do it. Hold on. Okay, so they have a little caption here. Right? It says, the traditional tomb of Rachel just north of Bethlehem. This is supposed to be, this is what they have in the book. It's like an illustration. It's looks like an old picture. It says right here under the caption, the traditional tomb of Rachel just north of Bethlehem. There it is. You can see it close enough. All right, so the notes that read to that, the first note, point 1, reads, Of this slaughter of the Shechemites by Simeon and Levi, see Authentic, part 1, pages 309, 418, 432 through 439. But why Josephus has omitted the circumcision of these Shechemites as the occasion of their death, and of Yaakov's great grief, as in the testament of Levi, I cannot tell. All right, and to just add a little bit of context to what that meant right there, it was actually what Levi and Simeon did. They went into the city, and they talked to the king, and they talked to the king's son, who actually did the heinous act. And remember what they did? They said, well, if you're going to marry into our people, and our people are going to be part of your people, then you have to be circumcised like we are. And all of your males have to be circumcised from this day forward, right? And all of your children, male born, have to be circumcised on the 8th day, according to our law, right? And then we will have peace, and yeah, you can marry into our families, and we can, take your women, and you can take our women, whatever, right? So that's what they said. So they went out, the king and the prince were very pleased at this, right? So they went out and they got all the men circumcised, knowing that this circumcision would make them not war ready. They wouldn't be able to fight because of their sore pain until they heal up. As soon as these men were all circumcised, Levi and Simeon, when they went in during the festival, went in and got the slaying and killed them all, right? The men couldn't fight back. They were, imagine they just had circumcision taking place. They couldn't walk almost, let alone sit down, They couldn't fight. So yeah, Simeon and Levi, they destroyed all the men in the city. And that's kind of just a little bit of that. All right, so let's get ready to read point number 2 of the notes. All right, notes, point number 2 of chapter 21. Since Benoni signifies the son of my sorrow, and Benjamin the son of days, or one born in the father's old age, reference Genesis 44 and 20. I suspect Josephus's present copies to be here imperfect, and suppose that in correspondence to other copies, he wrote that Rachel called her son's name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin, references Genesis 35 and 18. As for Benjamin, as commonly explained, the son of the right hand, it makes no sense at all and seems to be gross modern error only. The Samaritan always writes this name truly Benjamin, which probably is here of the same signification, only with the Chaldean termination in, instead of I'm in the Hebrew, right? Im, or im, instead of im in the Hebrew, as we pronounce cherubim or cherubim differently. Accordingly, both are testament of Benjamin, so Benjamin, okay? And philo de nomenum, mustatone, page 1059. Write the name Benjamin, but explain it not the son of the right hand, but the son of days. Okay, that's the end of the notes. And we're going to read chapter 22 and then the patriarchs in history, and we're going to finish up book 1. All right, hallelujah, Selah. Chapter 22, how Isaac died and was buried in Hebron. It's real short, and it reads, section 1. From there Yaakov came to Hebron, a city situated among the Canaanites, and there it was that Isaac lived. And so they lived together for a little while. For as to Rebekah, Yaakov did not find her alive. Isaac also died not long after the coming of his son, and was buried by his sons with his wife in Hebron, where they had a monument belonging to them from their forefathers. Now Isaac was a man who was beloved of Yahweh, and was promised great instances of providence by Yahweh after Abraham his father, and lived to be exceeding old. And when he had lived virtuously 185 years, then he died. And that's the end of chapter 22 in section 1, and that's the end of book 1. We're going to read this last little section. It's called The Patriarchs in History. It's just a little extra side information before we close out. All right? Cool. The Patriarchs in History. And it reads, it is quite difficult to correlate Abraham, Isaac, Yaakov, and Joseph with the general history of the ancient Near East. This is not because they are non-historical or mythological personalities, but because our primary sources, the Bible and Josephus, do not associate these figures with known events or individuals in their respective eras. In the case of Abraham, his home at Ur of the Chaldees has been validated by archaeology as a prominent Sumerian city, and his contemporary cited in Genesis 14:1. Amraphel, king of Shinar, Sumer or Babylonia, who is called Amraphsides, okay, by Josephus 173, has been identified with the well-known Hammurabi, the Babylonian king who reigned in the 1700 BC. Many scholars, however, prefer an earlier date for Abraham's arrival in Canaan. In any case, the early part of the Middle Bronze Age, circa 2000 through 1550 BC, circa, right, would seem the best time frame for the patriarchs. Unfortunately, the name of the pharaoh during Abraham's visit to Egypt, or Mizraim, is not given in any ancient source. That is correct. We just know him as Pharaoh. We don't know which Pharaoh. I guess not from what we've read, not in the scripts that we've read thus far. All right, Mishpachah, well, there you have it, right? That's the end of, what is that? The works of Flavius Josephus, the Jewish Antiquities, book number 1. That's the end of that. And we're going to be beginning the second book, right? The second book containing the interval of 220 years from the death of Isaac to the Exodus out of Mizraim. That's going to be on the next read, all right? So we have that coming up. All right, making some headway here, I guess. All right. All right, but anyway, it's been a pleasure, and it's been a blessing having you here with me, Kingdom Builders, Road Trippers, to read a little bit more of this. And please be safe out there as you travel up and down the roads to and fro. That's right. We still have some more time, some more days left in this week, so work must be done. All right? So be safe out there, please. And shalom and shalom. Peace and blessings to all of you. You already know that. And you already know the program. As always, man. All praises to the Most High Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. My love and my respect to you. All right. Until we read again, I'll see you all soon. Love you. Yeah.